My name is Sarah. Welcome to the It's a Sarah podcast. Today is Monday, January 2nd, 2023, and this is episode 53. Of course, I want to start this episode with wishing you all the best for this brand new year and a lot of heerlijk handwerkgeluk. That's Dutch for happy knitting and happy crochet. I'm looking forward to this new year. I like a brand new beginning with all the possibilities, and I love it. So 2023, here we come. I would like to start this first episode of the year with a short introduction. My name is Sarah and I'm coming to you from the Netherlands, so excuse my Dutch English. I love to knit and I love to crochet and I love to talk about my knitting and crochet. So I make an episode every week. I make two episodes every week, one in Dutch and one in English, and I love doing that. And I want to thank you for all the nice words and all the nice comments and all the love I receive every week. It's such a pleasure to read all that nice stuff, and I don't have, or maybe I should say I don't make the time to reply all. But I love to read them all, and it's always a struggle. Will I reply my YouTube answers or will I knit or crochet? And actually that's not a struggle because I prefer knitting and crochet, and I am absolutely sure you will understand. But I read every word you send me, and I enjoy every word you send me too. So thank you a lot. In this episode, I will share 2 pairs of socks I finished last week, and I will tell you all about them. I frocked some crochet and some knitting, and I accidentally finished a crochet project. It became something total different than I thought I was making, but it's quite fun, so I will share it with you too. I also want to share my New Year's cast on. I actually have 2 New Year's cast-ons. I started 2 new projects yesterday, but I will share one and the other one will come next week or something. And I let me think. Oh yeah, I have some plans for February, making February filmpjes, short episodes every day in February, and I will cast on my FELIX cardigan. It's quite fun because FELIX is also with the F. And when you also want to cast on a FELIX cardigan and knit it together with me in February, you are absolutely welcome. So I will share some more information about that and about my preparation, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. Making your stuff, prepare your stuff for starting the project. Preparation, prepare is the good word, I guess. Okay. But first, what am I wearing? I am wearing, as usual, my Hiedra headband. This is a pattern from Lerke from FiberTales. And I'm also wearing my Vintersol cardigan. And it's a very special one to me because this is my first colorwork project ever. And I started knitting because of the colorwork. I was a crocheter. I started crochet and I guess 14 years ago, and I always thought knitting was too hard for me. In the Netherlands we knit English style on straight long needles. We used to do that, and that's how I learned it, and most of the people learned it. But I could do it, but it wasn't my thing. It wasn't relaxing. It was, I don't know. So seeing all this round yoked colorwork patterns, I absolutely loved them, but there was no way I could knit something myself ever. I'm very good in having strong opinions and they're not always serving me. But if there is something I learned from my crafting, from my knitting and crochet, is changing my opinions from not serving in serving, and that's such a good feeling. Because I guess in the summer of 2018, I already discovered continental knitting by then and the circular needles, and I was practicing with them, and I experience, it was much more easy for me than on the straight needles English style. So that was a good thing. And at one moment I thought, let's try some color work. And I am someone who knits with making mistakes, ripping out, casting on again, make another mistake, rip out again, cast on again, and that movement all the time. That's the way I learn new things. And also I learned from my knitting, that's not only the way I learn new things in my knitting, it's how I am. My personal settings, I guess, for learning new things are just, for me, it works the best when I just do new things. And then I struggle, and I fall, I fall down, I make mistakes, and then I come up again, I stand up again and try again and struggle and fall again and try again, learn something new, and at the end I will success. And before I was knitting and crocheting, I didn't know that was my way to learn. So when I tried something new and I struggled and it failed, I gave up. And I just thought, it's not my thing. I can't do that. And that was it. And from the knitting I learned, when I struggled, I was still thinking, but I want that cardigan. No, it was a sweater by then. I want that sweater. So then I tried again, and I failed again. But I still want that sweater. So I tried again, and I failed again. But I still want it. And then I successed. So this sweater, knitting this sweater, learned me, if you want it, if you really want it, you can do it. And of course, you also can tackle that opinion, but I don't want it. It serves me to have the opinion, if you really want something, you can do it. And I practice that a lot in my knitting and crochet, and especially in this one, because this was my, it successed. And I had a sweater. I don't like sweaters. I discovered by then I don't like the high neckline, and then I sticked. I learned sticking, and now by then it was my favorite sweater. It can't close anymore, but that's okay, because I prefer to wear my sweaters like this, my cardigans like this. And there are a lot of issues about this cardigan. It is superwash merino. That's not a good choice for a colorwork cardigan, and there are a lot of little mistakes. And I have worn this sweater, this cardigan a lot in these 5 years. I guess it's my most worn knitwear. Yes, I guess. So, and you can see that it isn't, yeah, and you can see the color work is too tight, and there are so many issues. But also in this cardigan is the trust and the power, the willpower I felt making it, and the feeling, if I want it, I can do it. And that power is also in this cardigan, and I feel it when I wear it. So I always feel very good and powerful when I am wearing this cardigan. And it's such a important thing I learned from knitting this cardigan, and it gives me so much trust. No, that's not a... you have insecure and secure? I know that's not a good word. The power, the belief in yourself, and I love it. And every time I want to learn something new, I'm thinking at my knitting. I believed I couldn't do that either. So why I am now believing that I can't do something specific. I don't know something right now, but oh yeah, this podcast in English. I talked about it a lot. I won't talk about it again, but I also had a very strong opinion. I can't do it. But I was feeling I want to do it. I want it. No, you can't do it. I want to do it. No, you can't do it. I want to do it. And just one day I start trying and I couldn't do it. Indeed, I was struggling and falling, and I was all the talking, all the words and all the grammar. It was awful, and I was feeling, but I did it. And I stand up again, and I tried again, and I struggled again, and every week I struggle again, but I did it, and it's making me happy now, and I'm growing, and yeah, that's it's such a nice feeling. I hope you recognize it, and you have something you make and you can wear, and you feel the power in it. And when you have to do other stuff in life at which you can use that power, you can put on your knitting, and you know, woohoo! If I want it, I can do it. So, okay, Vintersol cardigan by Jennifer Steingass. Let's start. Last week I finished this pair of socks, and they were meant to be my perfect fitting socks. But this morning I discovered they are my perfect fitting imperfect socks, and it's quite a fun story. It's exactly matching with who I am and how I am. So it was quite funny. In November, I knitted a pair of socks for my niece, and knitting socks was also something I thought I could never do it. It was too hard for me, but it wasn't. And I found out how to knit socks, and I changed quite a lot during knitting all the socks. I changed the size, and I started from cuff down. And now I'm a toe up knitter, and through the years, I guess I started knitting socks 4 years ago, I don't know. Through the years, I knit quite some socks. And I found out my own recipe. And I always, when you are knitting with fingering sock weight yarn, I always knit 60 rounds for the foot. Let's start by the beginning. I'm a bit struggling now. So I always cast on 14 stitches with a Turkish cast on for my toe. Then I increase to 56 stitches. Then when I do my toe in a contrasting color, I mainly do, not with these, but I knit 10 rounds in that color. And then I knit 60 rounds before I start the heel, shadow wrap short row heel, the leg. Something I do a long leg, sometimes I short. I prefer long legs, and then the cuff I also do. So that's my recipe. But knitting plain socks for my niece, I accidentally forgot to knit 10 rows. It didn't have a contrasting toe either. So instead of 60 rows after the toe, I knit 50 rows. The first 50 rows, do I say rows or rounds? They mean the same, you understand. 50 rounds instead of 60 rounds. And I discovered that mistake when I was knitting at the leg. So I thought, oh no, then they will be too short. And I fitted on my foot. I have a size 38, I think it's 6 in US terms. I don't know exactly. But 48, no, I don't have size 48. That's very big. 38. But when I tried the sock on, the fit was perfectly. And it was actually quite logic, because I prefer my socks to have some negative ease. So the ease is the space you have between the size of your foot or your body or whatever, and the finished measurements of the knitting. And for the socks, I prefer some negative ease. So it's quite narrow to your foot, but I only did the negative ease in the width and not in the length of the foot. So now I actually accidentally discovered that 10 rows less created a little bit of negative ease to the length, and that was fitting my foot better than all the socks I have. So I was quite happy with that discovering. But these socks were a gift, so I decided to make socks for myself, perfect fitted socks. So I casted on, I received a skein of a Dutch dyer, Françoise from Bed Cat to Yarn, and this is the colorway Caramel Fudge. I love it. So I knit the first sock, that's this one, and absolutely fine and nice, and the fit was perfect. So I casted on the second one, and this morning I didn't remove my stitch markers yet because I want to update my notes on Ravelry, and I was counting and I thought, here, this is the end of the toe increases, and then 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. I thought 70, that's not, it should be 60. So I counted again and again and again. And I thought, that's not good. And what was happened? I accidentally knit my old sock recipe. So after 10 rows, after the increases, I knitted 60 rows, 10, 20, 40, 30, 40, 50, 60, as I used to be. And I thought, what? I was making perfect fitting socks. And I checked my other sock, my first sock, and I already removed the stitch markers there. But when I lay them together, I could see this foot was a little bit shorter, about 10 rows, than this one. So this sock is perfect as I want it to be. And this is my old sock recipe. And I thought, oh no. How could I do that? I was knitting this in a very busy period, very busy time in November, December. So my head wasn't there, I guess. And when I fitted both socks, it was okay. This size is also okay. And this is perfect. But I thought, this is so me. I'm perfect. What should I say? I'm perfectly imperfect. So I have a perfect, imperfect fitting socks. And it's quite fun. I will make a little embroidery at the inside of the cuff on the imperfect sock. And it will remind me that I learn by making mistakes. And I successed with one sock already. and this one failed. But it's not a problem because it still is nice on my foot, and there is no way I will rip it out and knit it again. It's not bothering me so much, but I do have to make a pair of perfect socks for myself. So perfect fitting, imperfect socks. Okay, I finished another pair of socks last week, my Christmas socks. The official name is DENNEBOOM socks, and DENNEBOOM means Christmas tree. And it's a pattern from MIRJAM Molenbeek. She's a Dutch knitter. You can't buy it. It's she made it exclusive for her. She has an online knitting school, and it was an exclusive pattern for her members. And she sent it to me as a gift because she was very happy of making me episodes and talking about my knitting and inspiring so much people, and she wanted to thank me for that. So that was very nice and very lovely. And the original pattern is a plain sock with only a colorwork chart at under the cuffs, and it was quite fun. It came at a good moment because it was, I guess, half of December. I wanted to make a Christmas knitting, getting into the Christmas mood. And last year I made the festive yoke pullover by Steingass. And I loved knitting that. And I knit it in 2 weeks, but it was quite a big knit. And it cost me quite some time and willpower and focus to finish it in 2 weeks. And this year I also have the pattern and the yarn for the festive yoke cardigan, also by Steingass, and I absolutely want to have that cardigan in green and white. I love it. But it was already it was already half December, and I was a bit afraid when I would cast it on, it would take all my attention, and I want to finish it in 1 week so I could wear it with Christmas, and it would be something I would do nothing else, and it took all my focus. I'm quite an addict, so I was a bit afraid for that. So I wasn't sure I could just cast on that cardigan and just knit a bit and then be okay with not be that the cardigan would be finished by in the holidays this year, but in 2023. So I was a bit doubting about that, and then this present in my mailbox came, and I thought, that's the solution. Christmas socks. That's absolutely okay. I don't wanted Christmas socks. I didn't plan them, but I like to knit them, and so they won't take all my attention. They won't make me lose all my focus for other things. But it's still a nice work, and it's, of course, it's less work, so they will be finished earlier, and I have a very nice themed knitting for the Christmas time. So I worked on this and enjoyed it a lot. I want them to be all over colorwork socks, because I love knitting that more than just one round of Christmas trees here. The plain socks seemed a bit boring to me, so I changed the pattern. I did quite some modifications. She has written the pattern from top down, cuff down, and I am a toe up knitter, so I cast it on for the toes. And I had some yarn in my stash, the brown and the Christmas tree green, and also some broken white, off white you call it, I guess. But I didn't. It was too hard. The contrast was too high for me. So I bought some tweed sock yarn, the Ravelry socks tweed, and I am absolutely happy with that choice. I cast it on with 2.5 and 25, that's Dutch. In the Dutch episode I sometimes talk English, and in the English episode I sometimes talk Dutch. 2.25 millimeter needles. There is a bit of an extra thread in the lang yarn shawl skeins. I am not sure how you call it in English. A little thin thread for extra strongness in your toe and heels. So I knitted them together. I casted on 72 stitches instead of mine usually 56, because of the less stretchier fabric colorwork creates. They are a bit too wide, so I could have gone down maybe 4 or 8 stitches. That would be perfect too, but I didn't, and it's absolutely okay. So I at first I used my needle 2.75 for the color work, and I did the Christmas trees all over, but the needle was too big. The fabric was too loose. I didn't like it, so I ripped out. And I also didn't like the Christmas trees. I'm a magic loop knitter, and the Christmas trees at the beginning of the round looked a bit messy, because when you knit in the round, you knit in a spiral, so your stitches are not this way but this way. And when you have color work, yeah, there is that spiral for the new round, and these Christmas trees looked a bit messy. So I thought, just skip them. Just do plain stitches and skip them, and they are still it was easier to knit, and I prefer the look. And I did catch the floats at the end and the beginning of my needle. I love the inside of color work. I absolutely could wear them this way. Look how wonderful. So I did catch the floats. You can see that here. So there wouldn't be long floats in which I could stick with my toes when I put them on. And because of all the short floats, it creates a nice and thick fabric, and the socks are extra warm, and I love it. I knit, let me take this one. I knit the shadow wrap short row heel. I also did that on the smaller needles. and with that extra thread. And then when I I'm sorry, when I was at the cuff, at my first sock I knit the cuff on a 2mm needle because I didn't use that extra thread with my sock yarn, and long yarn shawl is a bit thinner than the usually sock yarn, I guess. So I thought when I use a 2mm needle it would be okay, but it was too loose. And that's not so weird because my socks normally have 56 stitches and now it was a cuff with 72. That's quite a lot difference. So I decided, no, I decided nothing. I just cast it on my second sock and I didn't think about it. But when I was at the second, I always struggle with the th and the th. When I was at the second sock, I thought, let me do something different. Let me try something different. And it was a bit, it's always when you are, it's getting quite dark and rainy here, but I have my ring light and every time I put it on, it looks like I didn't have slept for 1 week. It makes me such a pale, and I'm quite pale always, but it makes me look quite unhealthy. So I didn't put it on, but now the light was quite okay, but now it's raining and it's dark clouds. So I hope, I don't know. I hope it's okay, but I think you can see the sock and you can hear me telling about my knitting. So that's the most important, I guess. But I decided to decrease, and I decreased from 72 stitches to 60 stitches. I searched when I for the knitting calculator on Google, and you it will lead you to a website. I don't know which website from who it is, but when you put in the knitting calculator on the internet, it will bring you there, and it will tell you exactly how you have to decrease. I call this my handwerkboek. That's Dutch for craft book. I always take notes in my craft book, and I let me hide the chart. I'm not a good drawer, but I love to do it, so it's okay. And this is my imperfect craft book. I am someone who started over and over again, and my perfectionist was always saying, no, it's not neat enough, it's messy, don't start a new one. But since a few years I just make messy notes, and I'm absolutely happy with this. Is my third, I guess, and it's like a knitting diary, and it's quite, there are quite some useful notes, but it's also a trip down memory lane when I am in it, and it's absolutely nice and okay. But 2022 was quite a busy year for me, so I didn't made enough time to work in my crafting book, in my handwerkboek, but this time I did, and I love it. And it's just a bit drawing and a bit writing, but it's part of the ending of a knitting work or a crochet work, and I will try to make some time again for that in this year, because I love doing it, and yeah, the notes are quite useful. So I did a decrease round, and then I knit 20 rows, no 18 after that, I guess. I always knit 1 row plain, knit all instead of the rib stitch, because when you when you change color and you immediately do a rib stitch, then the purls get that little purl bumps in the other color, and I don't like that. So I always do a plain round in the beginning, and then a decreased round, and then 18 rounds, and then the extra stretchy bind off. And at the end I also ripped out the cuff of the first sock and re-knitted it, because that's how I do it. Knit and rib out and knit again. So now I have wonderful socks. I didn't wear them. It was my plan to wear them on the last day of the year, but it was so warm here. I didn't need warm socks, so I will save them for next year. But I really love knitting them, and I also really love the result. But you can't buy the pattern. You can't find it. It's not. Maybe she will. It is in English. She wrote it in English. But maybe she will put it on Ravelry once. I guess it was her plan, but I'm not sure. But I will let you know. So, my Christmas socks. Oh, DENNEBOOM socks. Last week I was very busy with my last day of the year episode. In the last week of the year, I like to reflect on my knitting and crochet. It's very fun and nice to check what you've made through all the year, and sometimes you forgot what you have made because you gave it away, or just I just love it. So I did do that and made an episode with all my projects. But there were also a few, I think I didn't show them in my English episode, but there were also a few projects I want to rip out. For me, it's very important. I get very happy from my knitting and crochet. I really want my heart to make a jump. That's always, that's always making me so happy when you have that feeling. Oh, I love this so much, and it makes you happy. But there are some projects I started, and my heart wasn't jumping anymore of them. It was, and all kinds of things, just not a nice fabric, not nice to do. Sometimes it changes, and for me it's good to rip out these kinds of works in progress, because when I just let them lay there in their project bags in my basket, they will cost me energy. I always call that energy leaks. I don't know if that's the right word in English, but even when you don't notice, your energy flows away a little, not much, not hard, but because you have to do something with that project. You have to finish it or rip it out. And when you have too much of these energy leaks, it's not. I don't want to spend my energy on such things. So now and then I check all my projects, and I rip out what is not serving me anymore, what is not making me happy anymore. So this is my basket with ripped out projects, and I'm very proud because one of the projects I was knitting socks for my daughter's boyfriend with 3 strands of yarn, and my heart wasn't jumping while making them. I didn't like the colors, and I made him another pair of socks, which he likes very much, so that's very nice. And I was thinking the thick 3 yarns held together socks I would finish for my husband or whatever, but I wasn't liking them, and he wasn't either. And then I thought, let's frog them. But I don't know, frogging a project with yarn held double, or in this case held 3 double, oh, it's horrible. So that I wasn't looking forward to it. And normally I ask one of my children or my husband to help me, but I am a very impatient person, and when it's all knotted up and I get angry, and we are making a fight. No, not literally a fight. How do you say it? When you are making, in Dutch we say ruzie maken. But now I thought, let's do this. So I ripped out that socks in my own, with you call it frogging. I frogged out that socks with no knotting, no problems, no struggles. It all went easy and in a nice flow, and I was so proud. It was the perfect training for my patience, and it was very successful experience. So maybe I am a patient person. So that's nice to know. I could do it. So now I have a lot of scrap yarns for in my other scrappy projects, for mainly sock yarn this is. But I also had a little granny square blanket. It's on my lap right now. I started this in the summer. I'm absolutely a granny square lover, and I started a granny square blanket. I crocheted the granny squares while I was walking in the woods with my dog, or while we were traveling, or I always could pick them up and crochet something. I can crochet granny squares with my eyes closed. I can't knit while walking or with my eyes closed, but crocheting granny squares I can. So I started it, but I wasn't liking the result, and I had a lap of 18 granny square, no 19 one, and I was frogging that, but I already sewn in the threads and very neat and very tight, so it was horrible to unraveling it. And then I folded together and I thought, oh, I have a cushion in that size. So after all, I put 2 cushions in it because it was a bit wide, but I folded together and then I crocheted 1 row of single crochets. You have English and US terms. They are always confusing me. In Dutch we say vasten. And now I have a cushion. And it's quite fun because I love it and I hate it. These colors are so bright. And especially this one. This is absolutely not what I like. There are also a lot of colors I do like, but this is also so bright. So it's a bit confusing. Do I like it or not? But I'm in love with this cushion. Oh, it feels so good. But it was on our couch in the living room, and it was not matching. But it did feel quite nice, so everybody was happy with it. But it was not matching with the other cushions, and it was paying too much attention. I don't know, the colors were too bright, and it's also quite a thick cushion. So I thought, what will I do with it? And then I remembered this chair on our bedroom. I'm knitting quite a lot on our bedroom. We have a very nice and big bedroom. So when I have 3 kids and a husband and a dog. So when I want to have some quiet time, I sit and knit right here. But this chair is it's not good for my back. So when I am knitting here, I take my pillow from the bed, my cushion, my head cushion, and I put it in my bag. But now I thought, hey, I can put this one because look at this. This is perfect. So now I have the perfect cushion, the perfect pillow, and the colors. I don't know if we are friends or not. It's quite bright. I do love some natural, and especially this blue one. It's absolutely not my favorite, but I think we will become good friends, I guess, because I really love the feeling of this cushion. So this is my unexpected finished object. I wasn't thinking I was making a cushion. I was thinking this would become a granny square blanket, but we already have a lot of blankets, and when I want to knit crochet another granny square blanket, I want a DK woolen one. I also have a very much scraps of that. So an unexpected, happy, accidentally finished object. Yesterday was the first day of this new year, and I started a New Year's cast on, actually 2, but I will show 1 today. My needles weren't empty, but I love the idea of starting a new knitting work on the first day of the year, so I did do that, and it's a very special one, a very fun one to me. In October, I organized a sock knit day in my hometown with a lot of lovely Dutch knitters. And one of the ladies, her name was Monique, was knitting something else of sock yarn. She was knitting a very big scarf. She casted on 100 stitches on her circular needle, and she just knitted in around, and knitting up all her scraps to a very bright and colorful scarf, a straight scarf. And we all loved that scarf, and I immediately knew I will also want such a scarf. So I was thinking about it a lot, and a few weeks ago I decided that would be my New Year's cast on, and because I have quite some socks. Socks are my go-to knitting. I always can bring it with me, and I always can knit a sock, but I do have a lot of socks. And also knitting socks is also when you are at the toes or at the heel, I have to pay attention. And such a scarf with so many stitches, yeah, it would be absolutely okay. There was one but, no, not a but, I don't know. I was doubting about the end result because I did crochet a scrappy shawl. This is my straight triangle shawl. Yeah, you can find the recipe on my blog, but it's actually just a few triangles crocheted together to get this shape with the pointy shape. And I crocheted, I don't know, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, but I'd never wear it. Although it's all with sock yarn scraps. It's too bright, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't match my sweaters or my coats or my cardigans. When I'm wearing it now, it actually looks quite good. I don't know what the problem is, but I never wear it. So I thought, why should I knit a scrappy shawl again? Because I never wear my other. But I thought, okay, let's this can be a process knit. So I'm absolutely a product knitter. I'm always focused on the product. I'm choosing my knitting because of the end result. I want to wear it or I want to give it to someone else. And I enjoy the process a lot, but my main goal is the product. And it's quite refreshing to do a process knit now and then. I do it with the mystery knit alongs. There are absolutely process knittings for me. And I can enjoy that as well now and then. So I decided let this be a product process. And the worst thing that can happen is that I don't like the end result. But when that happens, it's okay. I can give it away, or I don't know. It's absolutely okay. So, a process knit. I don't want to have a straight scarf, but I really love the pointy edge of my scarves. This one is a crocheted one I designed a few years ago, and the recipe is on my blog, but it's in Dutch, so I don't think you... I can link it below, but I don't think... maybe you can put it in Google Translate, I don't know. But I love the model of this shawl because I wrap it around a few times and then I can tie the pointy edges and it's absolutely perfect. And I love this color, I love this... this is matching with my cardigan and I feel absolutely fine in these. So I wear this shawl a lot and I thought, let me make the same model. It's quite it's quite pointy and then it's quite some depth in it, and then it's pointy again, but this shape is perfect to wrap around my neck a few times. So I want to make a pointy one. So let me show it to you. This is where I am. I casted on 5 stitches with the Turkish cast on, and then every other row I increase 1 stitch at the beginning and 1 at the end. So this side will be straight and the increases will be here. So I will increase until I have the depth of my crochet shawl, and then I will just knit and knit and knit and knit, and then after that I will decrease and until I have 5 stitches or actually 10, and I will kitchen them together. So that's very nice. And I think maybe the increases are a bit too quick to get exactly the same shape, but I just want to make it an easy knit. So I don't want to increase every 4th row, or when I can increase every other row, it's nice and easy to see, and I don't make mistakes. I'm using my magic yarn ball, and that's quite fun. I tied my yarn ends, which are too short for proper yarn balls. I tie them together for the last 2 years with a magic knot to yarn balls. I guess I think I have 2 of these. I have to look for the other one. It's in my fingering weight box, I guess. But it's like a magic ball. I have no idea what's in it, and it's quite fun. And I decided, and I'm a little bit of a control freak. I love to have to control things a bit, and now I decided to surrender myself to this magic yarn ball. So just cast on with the beginning of the yarn ball and knit and knit and knit and see what happens. And that's quite fun and quite hard, because I already thought, oh, I'm not sure if I like this color. Oh, the pink, it's way too much pink. I want to the next color. Should I cut it and cast on the next color? But no, I surrender to my magic yarn ball and just knit and see what happens. And it's very inspiring for me to do that with my knitting, because also in real life it can be very good to decide, okay, this occasion I just go with the flow and I see what will happen without wanting to control everything. And I'm practicing that in my knitting, and I did practice it in real life, and it's just when you go with the flow, the outcome can be very different when you always want to control something. And sometimes the outcome is much more fun and inspiring than the outcome when you just do what you do and you overthinking everything. Just let it happen. And knitting with my magic yarn ball reminds me of that. Just let it happen. And it's not necessary to always just let it happen, but now and then it can be very refreshing to just let it happen and don't overthink the color changes and whatever, but just let it happen and to be okay with the result. Because the green and the pink, I thought it was too big, because the how do you say it? Now there are not a lot of stitches yet. So the rounds are short, so the stripes are quite wide. When we have more stitches, the stripes will be narrower, and I thought they are too wide. But it's also, when you are at the beginning, sometimes it's good to look through the beginning, to look behind the beginning, further than the beginning, because especially when you're making scrappy projects. Because when I was making this one, I absolutely was doubting about some color changing. Oh, how would that color, is it absolutely not matching or whatever? But when it's finished, it's one piece, and the little details disappear and blends in one big thing. And when you are focusing on the details, you can't see it, and you can't be doubting about something what absolutely isn't necessary when you would see the end result. So it's good to look through the beginning, further than the beginning, and focus on the end result, and then it will be one part. And it's also a life lesson I learned from my crafting, because that's also my experience in real life. When you are in the beginning and you are of something new and you are very focused on the tiny details, and they aren't working out the way you hoped or the way you meant to be the way you meant to be it, and you are overthinking and thinking about giving up or stop doing it. But when you are focusing on the end result and not on the details, the little details in the beginning, it makes you much more happy, and you can have the trust that it will be exactly the way it has to be. But you just have to knit on. Just don't think. Just have to knit on and surrender to your magic yarn ball. That's what I want to tell you. Surrender to your yarn, and it's quite refreshing. So that's my New Year's cast on, and it makes me very happy. I will knit on it the whole year, I guess. I don't know. I will pick it up when I want to, and it's always there. And we will see how it has no deadline. It is just there when I need it. And that's a nice feeling. Okay, in the last part of this episode, I will share some information about my plans for February. In February, I will make one episode every day, a bit like Vlogmas, but there is no way I would ever make Vlogmas in December because I don't have the time and also not the motivation to do that in that month. But it always catched my attention. Every year I thought, do I want that too? Do I want to make an episode every day too? And I like a good challenge now and then. And then I thought, let's do it in February, because February for me is quite a boring month. It is one of the last months of the winter, and there isn't happening a lot in February. And you have the holidays in December and also in November, and then the dark months, and then you have January and it's all fresh and bright and a new beginning, and then February and it's a bit boring. We have in the south of the Netherlands, we do have carnival when we are all dressed up in funny outfits and drinking beer. I'm not I'm not a very big celebrator, but so that isn't a highlight for me in February. But I thought let's make Februari filmpjes, and I will call them like that, I guess. Februari filmpjes is Dutch for February episodes. But February episodes also sounds a bit boring. So I will do it in Dutch and in English every day, a little short episode. And that will be the biggest challenge, to keep them short. But I will try it. And I will cast on a new knitting project on the 1st of February. So I will knit a FELIX cardigan in that month, and I will share my knitting with you and my experiences about that FELIX cardigan. And I would love it when you also want to knit a FELIX cardigan, then if you join. That was a horrible sentence. If you also want to make a FELIX cardigan, join me in February. That was what I want to say. And if you don't want to, it's also perfect. But I know in the Netherlands, last month I received 4 knitted FELIX cardigans from a Dutch knitter, and I all gave them. No, I not gave them away. I all gave them to other people, and I want to knit one for myself. And because there were so many people wanting those cardigans, I thought, let's do it together. And I would love to do it in English too, with the English people too. So the FELIX cardigan, it is a pattern from, I guess, 2021. It's from Amy Christophers from Savory Knitting. You also have the FELIX pullover. So you can also knit the pullover when you prefer pullovers above cardigans. Prefer pullovers above? I don't know. But the FELIX cardigan is a top-down raglan cardigan with some eyelets for the increases. Very little nice detail. I will knit it in Let Lopi. And I had some questions from the Dutch knitters about how to pick your size. And I have the opinion, every English knitter who is watching my podcast already knows how this works, but I'm not quite sure. So let me explain it also here, because maybe there are also beginner knitters in English. Somehow I think English-speaking people can all knit, and I absolutely know that's not true. But that's because there is so much. The English-speaking knitting world is so much bigger than the Dutch one. So that's why I'm thinking that, I guess. But I will tell you how I prepare a pattern. I will tell you that. So this is the first pattern page, and you can also find this information on Ravelry. I always buy my patterns on Ravelry. And when I start preparing my stuff for a new knitting project, I always start with picking up the size. And in the Netherlands, we measure with centimeters. And I guess European knitting designers always do centimeters and inches, but I think Amy is an American knitting, I don't know, but she only she only written down the inch sizes, so I have to check. I know 1 inch is about 2.5 centimeters, but I always go to a calculator online, and I found out that the smallest size 39 centimeters 39 inches was around about 99 centimeters. My bust size is 90 centimeters, so that means this part is 99 centimeters. It has a positive ease of 9 centimeter. Positive ease is when you have a garment of 90 centimeter around the bust and you have a bust size 90 centimeter, then you have 0 ease. You can also have negative ease. Then when it's 85, for example, then it will be narrow, and that can be nice too. You can also have positive ease when you have a bust size of 90 centimeters and you have a garment of 100 centimeters. You have 10 centimeters of positive ease, and your preference of ease is personal, and that's exactly what Amy writes in her pattern. And you have to discover what your preferences are. I discovered that my preferences are quite a low positive ease, near to 0 ease, and sometimes a bit of negative ease. I like it when it has a narrow fit. So 99 centimeters for my 90 centimeters bust size is a bit too wide. But I also discovered when I had the cardigans from Elisa and I could fit them on, the raglan was quite deep. So I think I will skip 1 raglan repeat, and I will play a bit with the stitches. So the smallest size is okay for me. I saw the pattern has only 5 sizes. That's not a lot, I guess. It's a bit not done these days. But I don't know, it's a very popular pattern. So I will knit the smallest size. And she also says this cardigan a range between 2 to 8 inches of ease, positive ease, is suggested for this garment. So it's a positive ease between 5 and 20 centimeters. Yes. And when you are not sure what your preferences are, you can also pick up a garment you love to wear, and something out of the store, and you can measure your own bust size and the bust size there from that garment. And when your own bust size is 100 centimeters and that garment is 110 centimeters and you love to wear it, you can think, okay, then I love to wear something with 10 centimeters positive ease, and you can check which size is closest to 10 centimeters positive ease, so 110 centimeters. That's the way I always check my sizing. And it's mainly this part, because the length of the sleeves and of the body you can change while knitting. Okay, I think the FELIX cardigan and the FELIX pullover are perfect knitting patterns for beginners. I didn't knit it already, but they are perfect. And then the yarn, I think they are perfect. Then the yarn, I will knit with Let Lopi, not a specific this color, but this was the first skein I grabbed. It was in my way when I was looking for one. And the pattern is asking for Aran weight yarn, and also she only has noticed it in yards. We all measure in meters in the Netherlands. So I didn't do it for this because I have a lot of, I have more than I need, so I didn't have to count. But when you are buying yarn, you can check the yards, or you can translate them into meters, and then you have to go for Aran weight yarn. My Let Lopi is 50 grams, 100 meter, and Amy suggested Let Lopi for this pattern. She used another yarn, Green Mountain Spinnery Mountain Mohair. It's not familiar to me. Sometimes there are American yarns. And this one is 128 meters for 57 grams. So you have to check that. And I also always check the project page from a pattern for inspiration, for suggestions, for modifications, or yarn suggestions, or color suggestions. It's quite fun. I will link it down below. And the pattern is written for 6mm needles, 5mm needles for the ribbing, and 6 for the rest, for the stockinette. I'm quite a loose knitter, and because this is knitted in back and forth, so with a lot of purling too, I will go down 1 needle size. It is already a quite airy fabric, because normally I knit my Let Lopi stockinette on 4.5mm, and this would be on 6, and it is a quite flowy, drapey fabric, and it's quite nice, but I don't want it to be too drapey, the fabric too wide, so I go down 1 needle size. I will pick 5.5 for the stockinette and 4.5 for the ribbing. I don't make a swatch often. I don't know if that's sometimes when I really don't know it, I do it. I just knit a few rows, and when I can count them, it's okay. But often I just start, and I prepare the option I have to rip out when I don't like the fabric or I don't like the fit, and it's absolutely okay. When you start, just do it for one of your first times. Maybe it's a good idea to choose for a yarn you can rip out good. You also have some very fragile yarns which would break. I saw some Pluterlopi unspun yarns used for this pattern. Maybe when you're just a beginner, that's not a good idea. Or when your name is Sarah, it's also not a good idea. Okay, so yeah, I'm looking forward to cast on this cardigan a lot. I'm not quite sure which color I will use. I have several colors in my in a how do you say it? In a cardigan quantity. In my stash. So I have to decide, but I still have a few weeks, so I will do that. Oh, I also want to tell, and that was especially for the Dutch knitters, but maybe when you have a question, I'm not a knitting teacher, and I don't want to be a knitting teacher. I'm more of a cheerleader. So when you are new to this and you have questions, especially in the Dutch podcast, I get a lot of questions, but it's taking a lot of time to answer all those questions, and I'm more enjoying inspiring people than teaching people something. I used to be a teacher on the kindergarten. Do you say it like that? Primary school. And I quit that. And I did doubt, will I be a knitting teacher? But I don't, it doesn't make me happy. So I didn't do that. So every time I got questions, I always think, And it's also always a bit of a struggle, because I want to help people, but it takes so much time if I answer every question. So I don't. It always sounds a bit unnice, but it isn't meant to be. But I want to create a space in which you can question your questions. So yeah, I don't know if you say it like that. So when you have a question, please put them down in the comments, and maybe there is someone also watching my podcast who likes answering questions, and somebody who can help you. So I want to create a place in which you can connect and communicate and help each other. And I always read the comments under episodes when I watch them, when they aren't too much. But there's so much nice information and inspiration in the comments. So I want to invite you, when you have a good advice or a question or inspiration or whatever on something I tell, please share down below, because it's very helpful. It can be very helpful for other people. And don't blame to share. And don't blame to ask anything. Only I hope you don't bother when I'm not the person answering those questions. Maybe you can find your answer in the stuff I tell, but I don't have the time, or actually I don't make the time to answer all the questions, because then my knitting time is gone. So, but please connect and share under my episode, because I love the connection, and I know there are a lot of very good and helpful knitters without a knitting podcast or a place in which they can share their experience. So feel free to share it down below, because helping each other can be very satisfying. Okay, enough for today. I wish you a very nice knitting week, a very nice crochet week, and I will see you next Monday. Bye bye!